You still have to forgive them. But that is not the same as restoration. Okay? So just because you forgive them does not mean that I'm going to turn around and act like everything is okay and we're going to be restored back to the relationship that we had before, because the covenant has been broken. Okay? And so you have to understand that, because only God knows if they truly are a man after his own heart. And if they are, then he will instruct you to begin the process of restoration with him. He will begin to restore you guys' relationship back together. He will work on that husband and deal with what's inside of him that's causing him to participate in that sin, and then he will restore the two of you back together. But that's something that he has to do. It's not your job to restore your marriage, and that's the burden that's being put on a lot of women, just from the spirit of religion, is that it's telling them that it's your job to restore this marriage because you're the one that's feeling taken advantage of. You're the one that's feeling embarrassed. You're the one that's feeling like you don't want to be bothered with this person because they've hurt you so bad. And so you have to hurry up and get over that hurt and quote unquote forgive them, which what they really mean is restore the marriage and go back to acting like you used to act. Because if you don't, then you haven't forgiven them, and that's wrong. That is not the truth. Okay? That's not the truth. You got to deal with forgiving them, but forgiving them is not at all the same as restoration. And restoration, that is something that's God's responsibility. You can't take on that weight. And so it's important for women to understand that, because there's two problems when you confuse the two. Number one, you don't give yourself time enough to heal, and you end up turning yourself into a Jezebel. Because what happens is you are trying to force yourself to go back to acting like you used to act and go back to restoration. And they are not a man after God's own heart. And so they do it again. And they do it again. And they do it again. And you keep putting yourself through this. And so what's happening is you are ending up being a punching bag emotionally, because you're trying to get over it. But number one, you're not giving yourself enough time to get healed. So you're just, you're leaving the wound open for the enemy to keep pouring salt in it. But number two, because it keeps happening over and over again, you're not forgiving or restoring, and you're turning bitter. And that is literally the definition of Jezebel. It's basically just a spirit of rejection, where someone has rejected and hurt you over and over and over and over again, to where you have turned bitter and angry and controlling. And that's what that does. And so I'm calling this out because this is what's happening in a lot of marriages. A lot of you are in unauthorized marriages with men who are unfaithful, who are not men after God's own heart, and who are just not God's pick for you. Okay, the marriage is just unauthorized altogether. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not they're faithful or not. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you forgive them or not. This just isn't the marriage for you. This isn't what God's called you to. And so you haven't gotten that as even a possibility. And so you're like trying to keep this marriage together, but you're sacrificing your soul, because the hurt and the pain is going to turn into bitterness, and it's going to turn into anger, and it's going to cause you to not be a woman after God's own heart. So I want to speak on that today, because there are so many women that are on this merry-go-round of quote unquote forgive, quote unquote, just trying not to hold it against them. And they're not the same thing. They're just not. And what's happening is that, especially in the church, a lot of these religious churches, they're harping on the fact that as a woman you need to forgive, but they pay very little, if any, attention to the fact that the man needs to deal with that sin in his life, that this is unacceptable. You can't treat your wife this way, and you really have to deal with that before you expect her to want to reconcile with you. Like, if she's giving you the silent treatment and she doesn't want to talk to you and that kind of thing, you need to be okay with that, because you broke the covenant. So it's not a matter of let's hurry up and get her to, go back to her wifely duties. Let's you worry about why you are behaving this way and what you need to do to make it to where you're not doing it anymore. And you know, it's a heart issue. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And so just because you are in counseling, or just because you are, you know, being accountable to another man, or just because you are not seeing this woman anymore, none of that means that your heart has changed. None of it. And the only person that can know for sure if your heart has changed is God. And so at the end of the day, your wife needs to be talking to God and saying, okay, you let me know when his heart has changed. In the meantime, I'll work on mine. I'll let you work on mine. And so there's just a huge disconnect. And so it's a part of this unauthorized marriage. It's a part of the enemy's plan to leave God's people broken and hurting, because that's one of the vicious cycles that an unauthorized marriage is. It's just pain and hurt and pain and hurt and pain and hurt and embarrassment and pain and hurt over and over again for decades. And it's not what God has called us to. And it's not at all a reflection of the covenant that he created. And so if you're in an unauthorized marriage, and maybe you don't know you're in an unauthorized marriage, maybe you just know that your marriage has been on this merry-go-round and you don't know how to get it off, I encourage you to go to God and allow him to really teach you and deal with you on the difference between forgiveness and restoration. Hi, my name is Amanda Nicole, and I'm a Christian life coach and divorce survivor. I'm passionate about seeing Christian women discover and participate in their God-given destiny. Many of us have had our destiny derailed by an ungodly marriage, which has left us broken and hurting. We stay in verbally, physically, and emotionally abusive marriages for fear that God will be mad at us, or that we'll ruin our kids' lives if we get a divorce. Most times, these fears are based in unbiblical scare tactics. I'm dedicated to shedding light on these lies and helping you experience freedom through divorce. My online school explores the truth about marriage, divorce, and the Bible, and I offer one-on-one life coaching for those who are seeking godly counsel unique to their specific situation. To learn more, subscribe to my channel, enroll in my Authorized Divorce online course, and or visit my website and book a 1-hour coaching session with me. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your support. Please consider leaving a comment, sharing, and liking this video. Also, this channel content is made possible by generous subscriber donations. To donate, use the link in the description.